Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Team 3 presentation on intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Presenting today will be our team members, myself, Amani Burns, along with Haley Robinson, Sophia Ruiz, and Tyler Brown. We'll start with a quick overview of how our presentation is organized. I, Amani, will be doing the introduction. Sophia will be talking about intrinsic motivation, while Haley will explain the extrinsic motivation. Then Tyler will help you understand how these ideas show up in the real world and connect to learning. He'll also be leading our learning activity, which is a continuing motivation activity. Link below our post. After that, we will end with our works cited. So for this introduction, I'm going to explain what our topic is. We're talking about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, what each one means and how both of them motivate behavior. I included a quote that shows the difference between the two. Next, we'll talk about why this topic matters in psychology. Motivation helps explain why people act the way they do in different situations. Psychology is all about understanding what drives people, so motivation is a really important part of that. Then we'll connect this to real life. One example is how teachers use intrinsic and extrinsic motivation as teaching strategies with really intentional and detailed attention to support learners. When teachers understand different types of motivation, they can help keep students engaged, focused, and more confident in their learning. And lastly, for our learning activity, Tyler is going to show an example of intrinsic motivation and show you how you can use it in your own life. We'll now be transitioning to Sophia, where she'll be discussing the importance of intrinsic motivation.
Hello, my name is Sophia, and I'm going to be talking about intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation is the internal drive to do or accomplish something for the main purpose of your own satisfaction, curiosity, or personal interest. The difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation is that even if there's no exterior gain, you internally have the motivation to complete a task or a project. Some examples of intrinsic motivation include mastering a recipe for personal satisfaction. Instead of baking cookies for a bake sale to get money, the simple feeling of satisfaction or completion is the motivation to bake. Another example is studying a subject to personally improve and feel confident, rather than studying to just pass a test or a better grade. Of course, these things will come naturally from studying, but the main goal here would be wanting to be confident. You may ask, why is intrinsic motivation important? Having motivation to complete tasks is a fundamental value for consistency. Instead of needing a reason to complete something challenging, you already have the personal gain and motivation. When you do things for your own pleasure and forget worrying about external gain, you grow self-worth by being confident in yourself and abilities. Lastly, intrinsic motivation helps personal growth. You can develop ethics that you can't gain from outside rewards. Next, Haley is going to be talking about extrinsic motivation.
Hi everyone, I'm doing extrinsic motivation. So extrinsic motivation is pretty similar to intrinsic, but it's more on the external factor side of things. So extrinsic motivation is the type of motivation people get when they want to receive something from someone else. So such as compensation, avoiding punishment, and getting a reward. Extrinsic motivation encourages people to complete their goals, getting up and taking action to complete those goals, and raising the goal expectations to make their goals more challenging and difficult to keep going. And it also, like I said, helps them avoid punishment. Extrinsic motivation is important because this is the type of motivation that people get when they have to do things that aren't fun. So, such as Sophia mentioned, baking cookies, that's not what this type of motivation is. This motivation is the type of motivation people have to get when they have to pay bills, go to work to earn money, go to school so they can earn a degree, and etc. Examples of this, besides going to work to earn money, is studying to get good grades, doing chores to avoid punishment, or even getting good grades at school to avoid punishment from your parents while earning a reward in return. Now I'm going to hand it off to Tyler. Tyler's going to talk about real-world applications and with the intrinsic and extrinsic motivations so you can apply it to yourself. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tyler Brown, and I will be presenting information I found in a JSTOR article. The information on this slide comes from a journal article that depicts a series of practice strategies intended to promote the maintenance and generalization of skills in special needs learners, though it's important to note that these strategies would still be effective for any learner. The list of strategies included practicing generalization sequentially, introducing the learner to naturally maintaining reinforcers, teaching sufficient examples, teaching loosely, using intermittent reinforcement, teaching using common stimuli, mediating generalization, and teaching learners to generalize on their own. Every single one of these strategies requires either extrinsic or intrinsic motivation for the learner to effectively practice and implement these skills in their own life. I pulled out the top 3 strategies that were highlighted in the article as the most effective, shown here on the right side. Practicing generalization sequentially with a learner involves teaching them a skill in one setting until they show consistent results, and then introducing the same skill in a different setting or with different individuals. This process repeats until the learner can generalize the desired skill across similar scenarios all on their own. Introducing a learner to naturally maintained reinforcers involves contriving skills that provide their own form of reinforcement simply by engaging in them. The example provided in the article was teaching a learner to greet others in an appropriate manner and then being responded to in a positive manner. Positive interactions can provide a social reward, inspiring intrinsic motivation in the learner. Lastly, using intermittent reinforcement was described as being the most effective strategy for maintaining and generalizing skills in learners. Our textbook also mentioned this form of reinforcement as being highly effective in increasing the frequency of a behavior, as the expectation for reward tends to be more reinforcing than the reward itself. This brings us to the activity our team came up with for you guys to practice at home. Obviously, I can't force you to do this, so do with this information as you will. Hopefully, by engaging in this activity, you'll be able to contrive motivation in your own life at will, though no promises. The point of this exercise is to slowly and systematically engage in simple tasks in a way that they become routine for you. Over a long enough period of time, usually about a month of consistent practice, a behavior becomes a habit. Intrinsic motivation is one of the most effective and self-sustaining forms of motivation, but it's difficult to summon this reliably through sheer will alone. That's why routine helps, and it helps to start simple. First off, pick one task or chore that needs to be completed daily, 15 to 30 minutes max. Then choose a reward that you can only receive upon completing this task. A snack, a break, an item, a nap, something you already do or use daily works best. Use your imagination and make sure it's a reward you actually want. After a week of completing this task every day, pick a new task to add to your routine and apply the same or a new reinforcer. Slowly stop reinforcing the previous task, but continue to do it anyways. This is how you shift from extrinsic motivation to intrinsic motivation. This cycle can repeat as many times as needed until your routine fills out your daily needs. By systematically choosing tasks and guaranteeing the completion over a relatively manageable span of time, you learn how to complete each item most efficiently and where they best fit in your daily schedule. That's why you want an easy task to begin with. Only you can force yourself to do something, so start small to avoid burnout. Extrinsic reinforcement is a great way to kickstart this system, but the end goal is to develop the discipline to continue this routine naturally. Now back to Amani.
To conclude, this is our reference page where we listed all of our sources used to support our research in this presentation. We have the sources listed used to explain intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, as well as our textbook and other valuable sources. We want to thank you all for watching our presentation. We hope you learned lots of information on how intrinsic and extrinsic motivation is implemented in psychology. Thank you.